Hey everyone, it's T. So I don't usually do multiple movie analysis videos in a row, but I was suddenly struck with holiday cheer, or maybe the opposite of that, because today we are looking at the 2000 film How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I was inspired to do this because I saw some discourse on Twitter about whether or not the movie was actually good. But frankly, I don't really care about discourse. I just care about costumes and set design. So that's what we're talking about today. This movie is really detailed in a way that I never got to appreciate until I was an adult. As a child, it just kind of felt magical to me, and now I think I have a little bit more of an understanding as to why. I feel like I shouldn't have to summarize the movie because it's based on a 20-page book and a 20-minute cartoon, but it stars Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, and it made bank at the box office. And for good reason. It really went hard as far as creating a world that felt fantastical and realistic. The costumes were designed by Rita Ryak with help from Susan Cousins for the knitwear. The entire Who world is decked out in their Christmas best because it's the one holiday a year that they look forward to. And really their chance to one-up each other. A quote from Rita Ryak: "I thought since the Who spend their whole year preparing for Christmas, everything should be made by hand." Apparently she enlisted second graders from an elementary school to embellish the costumes and make little gingerbread men. And I think the handmade quality of all the costumes is really obvious, as almost nothing feels manufactured like it would in, say, a similar movie. And the silhouettes of almost every outfit are shaped in a way that is not necessarily common, pear-shaped in a cartoonish way. Everything flares out at the waist and hips, and Who's that are wearing pants. The silhouette comes back together at the ankles. I really love the way that they styled the mayor. In his introductory shot, he's wearing a silk scarf. Judging by the shine of his blazer, I'd say it's like velour or like maybe sateen. Either way, it's like a jacquard fabric. Along with the coat, he looks like the most wealthy and powerful man in the town, and also a villain. The hairstyle looking like devil horns helps too. And also, as you can tell, it seems very vintagey, like the fabrics don't look cheap. The silhouettes aren't the common silhouettes of today, as I said before. Rita Ryak, quote, chose a 1950s aesthetic for the costumes, consulting vintage cookbooks for ideas for the many food-inspired outfits, and scouring flea markets and antique shops for supplies. Martha May's introduction is wild. I remember being a kid and being like, what is this feeling that I am feeling? And now as an adult, I recognize this as bi panic, but she looks incredible. I really want that dress. And that gravity-defying silhouette was obviously there to make an impression. It's based on the 1950s for sure, and is definitely like a hoop skirt or like a bunch of petticoats or something similar. Costumes generally establish her as the hot girl, but also in this scene in particular, in a somewhat misogynistic way, it's comparing her to Cindy Lou's mom, who is supposed to be frumpier. It's very early 2000s. I think they did the same in the Flintstones movie, which was around this time as well, and also made me feel uncomfortable feelings for some reason. So anyway, back to Martha May. She's obviously rich. They styled her in a lot of jewels and ritzy fabrics, lots of velvets and furs. Her sleeping gown is basically evening wear. And I also noticed that they made her look slightly less cartoonish than the other Whos, especially in the scene where her hair is down. Probably also for the attractiveness factor. But also her hair is the most decorated. I believe at some point she has wires in her hair that make it look like presents. When these teens, I'm assuming, are trespassing, I thought it was very reminiscent of an 80s horror movie, the way that they filmed it. But also the dynamics between all the teens. One is literally dressed like a Barbie. I did like that they focused on the shoes of one of the characters. It's very oversized in Kingdom Hearts in a way that establishes that cartoonishness. Also, look at this thing that they used for one scene. I wonder if they refitted another practical set piece for this, or if they just built that for this. So let's talk about the Grinch's costume. The body is made from yak fur, which was added into a spandex bodysuit While researching, I found out that Jim Carrey hated the prosthetic nose that he had to wear, so much so that he made everyone's life miserable on set, even made the makeup artist want to quit the industry. And while I understand not being able to breathe while trying to act is difficult, I think making everyone else's life bad on set is excessive. Eventually he learned to deal with it though, and I think that's what sold the film. It was the incredible work by the makeup team. I think that also explains why a lot of the kids don't have the Who prosthetics on. If it's hard for adults to breathe, I'm sure they wouldn't want to put that on a kid. Going back to the Grinch's costumes, he wears like ratty fabrics when he's trying to infiltrate the town. The costume designer generally wanted it to seem like he was scrounging things up from his cave. I think that also ties into a lot of the props that he uses. He wears lederhosen at some point, and over that, he is forcibly put into a Christmas sweater. The costume designer basically wanted something that he would automatically hate, and I think it works. It looks very festive. It has like little bells and actual Christmas lights in it. Susan Cousins and her team made 250 sweaters for the film, including several replicas of that Christmas sweater, and they were all handmade, which is super impressive. In the party scene where the Grinch is being delivered, there's a lot going on, especially for a kids movie in my opinion, but people are literally wearing like shawls and dresses made out of almost blanket-like patterns. This is neither here nor there, but I am wondering if the Grinch baby was an animatronic or a puppet. He reminds me of that 90s TV show Dinosaur or Dinosaurs, so it could be either, really, but he's both terrifying and adorable, in my opinion. The kids' costumes are very 50s, and they seem really well made and structurally sound, shall we say, so I'm wondering if they were specifically made for the film or if, like some other pieces, they were like vintage. They gave young Martha May pearls and gloves to kind of match her adult outfits, which was a very nice touch, I think. Going back to the hair, I think all of the Who's hair is kind of hyper realistic. Cindy Lou's kind of looks like an ornament. It's a fun way to utilize like wigs and hair to tell a story, and very maximalist. I love it. In addition to the stuff that makes sense, I think there's also things in the costumes that are just there for fun. Plates of cookies sewn onto a shawl that looks like a tablecloth. These two people dressed as candy canes. All of these costumes are for the so-called Whobilation, so they're kind of extra on purpose, but I think it's fun that this is the direction that they took with it. They could have gone like ritzy or glam, or everyone just dresses like a present. But this is far more interesting in my opinion. Also, Cindy Lou's hat, I think, has actual eggnog or maybe like milk in it. So let's move on to the set design. The art direction in general is by Lauren Polizzi, who actually has a fair bit of BTS photos on her website. Apparently, Whoville used over 2 million feet of styrofoam and enough artificial snow to cover 9 football fields, which is just so much waste. They used it for years afterwards as like a touring spot, so that's something. And it was also effective to creating probably a lightweight, easy to mold and style set. So there are very few straight lines in any of the buildings, in any of the set pieces besides like the presents. All the buildings are shaped in a way that is not necessarily familiar, at least to like an American eye. There are lots of swirls included in the designs to mirror the motifs from the original book. You can see that in the hair, and some of the wallpaper, and some of the props. This doesn't have a lot to do with the set design, but you can really see that they use a lot of like canted angles for the camera to establish the kind of unreality that's going on. Whoville was kind of structured by the production designer, Michael Korenblith, and his team, almost like a medieval village. The crowd scene at the beginning is very fun. It's almost like Where's Waldo, with all the random details. Someone's playing a saw as an instrument. There's a man in fatigues. All the cars look like toys and they're super shiny. I love that detail. In fact, a lot of things that they use are shiny or glittery. I think that they probably chose fabrics and materials that would give off some kind of sheen on purpose to create that kind of glowy, reflective look. Like, I feel like that is very Christmas, but also very cartoonish. The Christmas lights battle is wild in hindsight. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like they're there via CGI, but maybe I'm wrong. You can also see a lot of the 1950s aesthetic in the props, the phones, this record player music box. A lot of Cindy Lou's furniture is shaped like kind of Art Deco of the late 20th century. I really like the way that they styled Cindy Lou's room. The flowers are a really nice touch. It's big and bold, but also not too Christmassy because she's a child with a personality outside of Christmas. They even made this flashlight into a flower, and there's so much Art Deco around this set, whether in the homes or in the department store, which helps with the almost period styling of it, but also makes it seem unfamiliar enough that it looks like it mirrors animation. The styling of the Grinch's cave is just so fun to me. They have a good middle ground of real materials and the big styrofoam set pieces that make up the larger and what I would guess is the heavier details. There's also an interesting mix of fabrics and materials in things like this chair, this phone. It all looks very scrounged together, which helps differentiate it from the rounder, brighter, more manufactured furniture of Whoville. In the ending scene, when everyone's come together, there's a big focus on this like round metal thing, and I think it works well with the aesthetic of the Who's, showing that they've meshed together, they've accepted each other. I don't know, the set design really kind of speaks for itself in my opinion, but I'm just impressed that so much of it was practical. They did use a lot of CGI, and it's very obvious when you watch the movie, but the practical set pieces obviously were a lot of work. And lastly, I thought I'd end it with some fun little details. This newspaper photo looks like a Bigfoot sighting. The Grinch's telescope is held up by a mannequin leg, I think. Cindy Lou's father, who is the postman, his sleeping cap is the same like shape as his postal worker cap. The jewels in Martha May's hair when she's explaining the Grinch's story are the same ones from the toy that he broke when all the kids made fun of him. Also, I forgot to mention Cindy Lou's mom's peppermint candy hair rollers. I just think they're neat. So yeah, I appreciate the look and feel of this movie. Like I said, when I was a kid, I just thought it was magical. And even now, I think that it still is, but in a different way that is kind of informed by knowing all these people did a lot of hard work to achieve it. If you like this video, you can like it, subscribe if you want, comment if you feel like it. Have a happy holiday. If you're not celebrating a holiday, have a great day. Have a great year. You know. And thanks for watching.